Hello and welcome. I'm Stephen Griffin from the Academic Skills team, and in this short video we're going to explore something that's really central to your university studies, thinking critically. Critical thinking is one of the most important academic skills that you can develop, and it underpins everything from how you read and research to how you write and build arguments. It's something that's expected of all university students, regardless of your discipline, but it's not always taught explicitly, so this short session is designed to help you understand what critical thinking actually means in practice and how you can begin applying it in your own academic work. So we'll start with a simple definition. Critical thinking is the ability to think clearly and rationally, to reflect independently rather than just accepting information at face value. It does involve questioning, evaluating, comparing and drawing conclusions based on evidence. It's a deliberate and active process, and you're not just absorbing information, you're engaging with it, analysing it, and deciding how it fits with what you already know about a topic. There are three key components to highlight here. First is evidence-based reasoning, and this means assessing whether a claim is supported by strong, credible evidence. It also means being willing to change your mind when better evidence becomes available. Second is logical argumentation, being able to build or evaluate a clear, reasoned argument. Is the conclusion supported by the evidence? Is there a logical flow from point to point? And third, it's about questioning and criticising, not necessarily in a negative sense, but in a constructive one. It's about being curious, asking good questions, and not accepting things simply because they're stated with confidence or come from an authoritative source. So in short, critical thinking is about striving for clarity, truth, and intellectual honesty, and it's essential for making informed decisions and progressing in any field of study. So what does critical thinking actually look like in practice? Well, it starts with analysis and synthesis. You analyse when you break something down, for example, identifying the key ideas in a text or the structure of an argument. You synthesize when you start connecting ideas, so combining different sources or viewpoints to form a new coherent understanding of something. And you also need to question assumptions, and this includes your own assumptions. So you might want to ask yourself, why do I believe this? What's the basis for this particular claim? And how does it compare to other views? It's really easy to slip into default ways of thinking, especially around topics that you feel strongly about, but critical thinking means taking a step back and interrogating those instincts. Another really important part of critical thinking is the evaluation of evidence. Not all sources that you'll encounter are equal, so as you read, you have to think about the credibility of the information and ask questions like, where does this evidence come from? Is the methodology sound? Is it recent? Is it relevant? And are there any alternative perspectives that I need to take into account? Evaluating evidence isn't just about checking the facts, it's about judging how persuasive an argument really is and what weight it should carry in your own thinking. Much of your university study, as you probably have realised, involves reading, and reading critically is a really major part of thinking critically. When you read something, don't just ask, what does this say? Also ask, how and why is it being said? This means paying attention to the structure of the argument, the assumptions that the author is making, if any, and the kinds of evidence that they're using to make their points. A really useful framework here is description, analysis, evaluation. So first, understanding something at a descriptive level. This is the surface level where you might want to summarise the key ideas or arguments within a particular piece of text. Secondly, analysis is a little bit deeper. It's breaking down how those ideas are supported. What's the reasoning behind them? What examples or evidence are being used to support them? And finally, evaluation. The final step is assessing how convincing and how compelling the arguments that you see are. What are their strengths? What are the limitations? And how do they compare with any other sources that you've come across or other arguments that have been made? You might also find it helpful to ask questions of yourself, like what's the author's main argument, what assumptions are being made, how credible is it all, and how does it compare with other sources. So reading critically means moving beyond being a passive consumer of information. You're becoming an active participant in this academic conversation. Now, of course, we have to talk about what it means to write critically as well as read critically. Critical writing isn't just about repeating what others have said, it's about showing your own thinking, demonstrating your own thinking, constructing clear, evidence-based arguments that reflect your engagement with the material, not just the simple reading of the material. So you'll still be using other people's ideas, but not just to show that you've read widely around a topic. You'll be using them to support your points or to challenge or contrast ideas, and to raise objections and to build your own case for something. So here's a quick step-by-step way of approaching critical writing. First, you might want to introduce your point. In this case, you want to be clear about the claim or idea that you're presenting. Secondly, it's a good idea usually in the writing to explain or clarify what it is that you mean. So don't assume your reader knows the background or the context in which something's being stated. Give them a little bit of help and explanation. Thirdly, you need to support what you said with evidence. So for this, you need to bring in credible, relevant sources as evidence. Before moving on to point 4, which is critiquing the evidence, and this is a really key point. Is the evidence convincing? How does your reader know that it's convincing? Remember, they might be full of questions about the evidence that you're presenting. Are there any counterpoints to this, and have you considered them? And can you dismiss them? What are the limitations of the evidence you're putting forward, and do you admit to that? And finally, I think it's always a good idea to justify the point that you've made. So this really involves explaining why you've made the point. Why does it matter? Why does it matter in the context of this particular assignment that you're writing, or more broadly in the field that you're studying? So the aim isn't just to demonstrate that you've read a lot, but to show that you've thought about what you've read and that you can use it to build your own argument. You can infer things from the readings that you've done. So, for example, rather than writing something like Smith 2020 said this and Jones 2021 said that, you might want to aim for something that sounds a bit more analytical. For example, while Smith argues X, Jones presents a contrasting view, and when we consider the evidence, Jones's position is more convincing because blah, blah, blah. That's what critical writing sounds like. It's balanced, it's evidence-based, and it's clearly and understandably reasoned. So there's lots of ways in which we can support you at the Academic Skills Centre, and if you'd like to develop your critical skills further, we're here to help in every way we can. We have a wide range of resources, for example our website where you can find all sorts of information. You can book a one-to-one appointment with an academic skills advisor like me, in which we can talk through your approach to critical reading or writing in a bit more depth. You can also access our Academic Skills Gateway, which has got modules and self-paced learning on topics like analysis, argumentation and essay structure. And all the way throughout the year we run workshops and drop-ins, so if you look at our website you can keep an eye out for what's on offer. So to wrap up, critical thinking is an essential academic skill. But it's also something that takes time and practice. It's not like a switch that you suddenly flip on. It's a habit that you develop over your time at university. Start small, question what it is that you're reading, challenge your own assumptions, make time to reflect if you can, and when you do write, aim to build reasoned, evidence-based arguments, not just a list of things that you've read. And if you do that consistently, you'll not only produce stronger assignments and essays, you'll also become a more independent and confident thinker, and that's really a skill that will serve you well far after you've left university. So thanks very much for watching, and please don't hesitate to get in touch with the Academic Skills team if you want any further support. Please give some feedback on this video and let us know what you think so that we can prepare things in future. Thank you.